So from our list, after we do the reliability test, as it's in here, reliability test. And remember, that's only for surveys. If you are using a database, you probably don't need reliability test. The next point to do is to do descriptive statistics, and this works both for surveys and also databases. So descriptive statistics is the first thing that we can analyze. And sometimes we think that descriptives are not very powerful, but in reality they are. And because we assume that they are not that interesting, sometimes we forget to discuss them, but no, they are actually quite interesting. And something that we can take a look is at which is the minimum and maximum values, if there is a huge variation or very low variation. Take a look at the average, and what does that mean in general? At the same time, we need to keep a balance, and we cannot make a whole hypothesis, a whole thesis only on descriptive statistics. We need to do also a more analytical stuff. So generally, one paragraph where you discuss descriptive statistics is enough. So here is one example. This is also the output from SPSS, and we have many variables in here. The first one is happiness. It's from a survey, which is actually what we will do in our lab. But this variable measures how happy someone is from 1, not very happy, and 10, very happy. So if you take a look at the descriptive statistics, we can see that 114 people answered to the survey. That's the N number of observations. And from our sample, the minimum, the saddest person, average 2, from 1 to 10, 2. So first thing that is interesting is that in this sample, there is not a single person who is at the very bottom. There is not a single person who is scored 1. So that's one thing that you can quickly discuss. And contrary to that, we do have someone who, at least one person, who scored 10. So that person is at the highest level of happiness. Another interesting thing is that the average is 6.7. So it's a little bit higher than the middle between 10 and 1. So that's also something interesting that you can discuss, that this sample is a little bit higher than the medium, than the medium of the scale, so they're a bit happier. And then you can discuss other things, like, for example, if they're female, in here, female means 1. We will go through this on the quant lab. So it means that 54% of this sample is women. The average age is 23, the youngest is 19, but the oldest is 36, so it's quite a young sample. So you can discuss a little bit here. As I said, one paragraph is enough. And then we have another descriptive analysis, which is the correlation analysis. It's also valuable, but sometimes we also tend to ignore. And correlations are important because it gives us, a correlation tells us if the behavior of one variable relates to the behavior of another variable. So for example, if I don't know, if I eat sushi, I feel happier. So there is correlation between my happiness and eating sushi. It doesn't mean that eating sushi causes happiness, or that's more advanced conclusion, but correlation only means that the behavior of one thing is related to the behavior of another thing, how one variable change is related to another one. So people sometimes think that it's not that powerful because you cannot analyze deep enough to, for example, say if it causes something or not. But it's still valuable to know if the behavior of one variable is similar to the behavior of another one. So for example, the correlation can give us hints if the hypothesis is going to work or not, if we're going to support or reject. Also, it can help us realize if there are going to be problematic correlations. Maybe our independent variables are highly correlated between each other, and that's a problem. So we need to check that. So here, I hope you can see because it's a lot of numbers, but this is also the outcome from SPSS. And what you need to check is actually you can take out this part if you will learn on SPSS. If you take out the significance and the end, that's not necessarily what you need is this. the coefficient. And how do you read this table is that you have this variable in here, the variable happiness, and its relation with other variables. This correlation goes from -1 to +1. -1 is that is perfect correlation, so the behavior or they behave exactly the same, they behave exactly, but the opposite. So if this variable moves like this, the other variable moves but the same the same value, but the other way around. And if it's +1, is exactly the same in the same direction. So if one moves up, the other one moves up exactly on the same distance, the same measure. So of course, happiness is perfectly correlated with happiness, right? Because it's the same variable. So of course, we always have this line of ones. We always have it like this. So happiness with happiness, locus of control with locus of control, relationships with relationships, blah, blah. So that's not interesting at all. What is interesting is to kind of cross what happens between happiness and locus of control, what happens between happiness and relationships. So it's our dependent variable with all of our independent variables. So from this, we can do a quick analysis again. As I mentioned, you can write in your paper just one paragraph discussing interesting things. And one interesting thing is that happiness seems to be correlated with several independent variables. What I mean with correlation, or when I say it's correlated, it's because of two things. One thing is that this number is quite high. That is, for example, here is 0.3, 0.4, 0.2, 0.3, 0.4. Those are high numbers, like the significant numbers. So that means that the correlation is a bit strong. So you can interpret like if locus of control changes 0.3, happiness also changes at some degree. So that's one way of looking at it with this number. If the number is kind of insignificant, it's also is correlation. And then also you have the stars in here. If you take a look at this, here it says that 2 stars make the correlation significant at 0.01 level. So every time that you find stars, 2 or 1 star, that means that that correlation is significant. So you can interpret a little bit in there. So for example, again, going to this analysis, what you can interpret from this is that happiness is correlated with our independent variables. So locus of control, relationships, motivation, balance, wellness, except financial stability. Financial stability is not correlated. So that's interesting because in our model, we probably have all the variables to be related. We expect that to have something, but apparently there is a hint in there that maybe not with finance. So that's something you can write about. Highly correlated with everything except finance. And then also these are controlled variables. If the person answering is a student or not, if the person is female or not, the age, the year when they started studying, the current, if they are currently a student or not, and the level they are studying, bachelor, master, blah. So there is no correlation with the controlled variables. But we can find something interesting. For example, if we go to relationships, here we have relationships. So it seems that if you have a good financial stability, you also have, it's also kind of positively correlated with relationships. So there is a positive correlation between financial stability and relationships, as you can see in here. Then another interesting thing that you can find, if you are a student, current student, the relationship that you have not happy relationships, it's not positive. So being a student, it seems that is negative for relationships. You can find other stuff like, for example, wellness. It seems that the year of your study affects your wellness negatively. So students who just started, no, but sorry, that one doesn't have a star. So we cannot, there is no correlation actually, but here with age, it seems that older people have better wellness, their correlation. So these are just interesting descriptive correlations. We cannot interpret as the older you are, the better wellness you have. No, you cannot test or hypothesize or test the hypothesis. It's only saying like interesting descriptive correlations that we found are that our important variable correlates with our independent variables except finance. And then the other interesting things that we see are this and that. Interesting things that are there, but we cannot conclude as if it is a hypothesis and if we really test. That will come later. So kind of wrap up of this video. Discuss your descriptive statistics, the number of the number of observations, minimum, maximum, average, if there is huge or small variations, discuss interesting correlations, and you can do that in a couple of paragraphs. You don't need a lot. The next step is to talk about regression analysis, and we will do that in the next video.